Hey everyone, Remade the Raging Furry here, and well, as you may have guessed by my last video, this isn't going to be a normal video with my normal hijinks and all the other bullshit. Anyways, I'm not drunk, I'm not high, and I took a shower before I started deciding to film this to clear my head so I could talk about it on a coherent level. I guess the first step to it is admitting I'm depressed. I'm more depressed than a depresso bean. Stupid joke. But I'm not sure what it comes from, really, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a lot of things that I guess make me feel trapped or something. I don't know. The point being, this is going to be a pretty long form video. I guess one of the reasons I can't I'm depressed is because I can't really walk that well. I mean, you've probably seen it in some of the videos. I know not too many viewers actually watch it, and that's okay with me, but to the people who have watched it, I've posted videos where I went to the 7 Magic Mountains, or I've posted videos of me walking around and doing stuff, and it's because I've been injured recently. Okay, for a few months now. It's because TLDR, I went down a hill on my longboard, and I was going probably 25 plus when I crashed. You've probably seen my cane in the 7 Magic Mountains video or a few videos that I posted lately. But I got it to help me walk around. I guess I didn't break anything because, I mean, I probably wouldn't be able to walk if I broke something. But just my reduced walking ability, it hurts to think about. And honestly, it's really embarrassing to hobble around on a goddamn cane. And if I didn't feel like I absolutely needed it, I mean, I wouldn't be using it. I'm trying to be too much of a macho man, I guess. But it's just really embarrassing. I mean, I'm only 22, and here I am, barely able to walk without some sort of fucking pain. I don't want to be one of those people that just gets injured early on in life and I'm permanently fucked up. And I just hope that isn't the case. And I want to go see a doctor, but recently my Medicare got I don't know how to say it. It got my application got denied. So I mean that really hurt. It's like, what, I don't make little enough money, or I'm not disabled enough to get Medicare or something. It's kind of messed up. But I mean, that's one thing that really gets to me. I don't like talking about it. When people ask me about it at work, I get pretty defensive over it. And sometimes I'm just in a pissy fucking mood and I don't want to talk about nothing. But I mean, I tell people, you know, hey, I can only walk this fast. Might have to be patient with me. And it sucks. See, another thing I did is I originally moved out here to Las Vegas to be with my family. One of the main reasons was my sister. In fact, she was probably one of the only reasons. Because when my family left for Vegas when I was around 14, I was really fucking devastated. I had mommy issues. Well, not mommy issues, separation anxiety, I guess. I mean, that's probably the only thing I would classify it as. This goddamn Enderman really wants me to look at him. But, I mean, I was only 14. My sister was 8, for fuck's sake, I think. I mean, the time really gets away from me. And so, I decided, my mind was set that I wanted to move to Las Vegas. And I was born and raised in Washington all my life, so I've pretty much seen and done pretty much everything there is to do in Washington. Or at least I felt like it. And I felt going to Vegas would help me out. You know, just mentally and spiritually or something of that sort. And it did. I mean, in this city I'm actually able to freely express myself. Sure, I'm self-conscious about things, but I don't have to be self-conscious about them as I would have to have been in a place like Mount Vernon, Washington. A lot of hick towns over there, a lot of right-wing, like really conservative people and whatnot. Even though they say Washington is like a liberal swing state. But a lot of herder Bible thumping, and I don't like that. It's really suffocating over there, that mindset that I mentioned. It's suffocating to, you know, this way is the right way. I guess another part of my depression stems from the fact that early on I've had ways of transportation around the city. Like, I was spending my money on a scooter I had bought when I first moved to Vegas, and right now it's out of commission. I've been trying to get modes of transportation so I can go someplace and do things myself. But it's hard because my scooter was constantly breaking down, and I've wanted a regular car. I don't mind the scooter, I mean, it's nice to get around on. But I've wanted a normal car, and I finally have one now. I mean, it's probably a really old video on my channel, but you can see the car. And I want to get it up and running, but I'm just not making any progress on it. It's been sitting in my driveway, even though I paid the $800 for it. So, I mean, it really hurts, really, because I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything, and that I just wasted, you know, $800 that I probably could have spent fixing up my scooter, or even buying a new one, for fuck's sake. Man. But lack of transportation and walking it gets me down, because like either I have to bum rides or take Uber, and just it angers me because I can't be as self-sufficient as I hoped to be, I guess. It's It hurts. And, going back to the reason of wanting to see my sister grow up, I moved out here after graduation. I was only 18, 19 at the time. It's been 3, 4 years now, and she's goddamn 15 going on 16, man. It's like, where did the time go? But I feel like I'm failing as a big brother. I forget all the shit where I say I want to be transgender and all that other BS. I'm just talking about family right now. I feel like I'm failing. Really hard, actually. Because I know for a fact my sister, she doesn't like it here. I'm actually pretty confident she hates Vegas. And she's said it on multiple occasions. And the reason I know is because I've done the same goddamn thing to my dad. Oh, I hate Washington, I hate being here, blah, 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 blah. I've done it, and I know what it's like to do that. It's a shitty thing to do. But, I know for a fact she doesn't like it here. And I can understand that. But I'm hurt, honestly, because I wanted to come here so I could watch her grow up. I could, teach her. I want to be her mentor. I want to be the big brother. And I feel like I can't. And she has her own stuff she's going through right now. I mean, it's probably piddly squats, but it's still important to her. And I can't take that away from, from something. It's important to her, and someone would probably think that what I was going through is piddly squats. So, I mean, it's twofold. But, I mean, she's growing up, her hormones are changing. It's a time for her. And I get it because I was there, figuratively and literally. I mean, I don't completely get it because I'm not a woman, but they have their own set of problems to deal with. But she's also been, I feel like she's been pushing me away. I want to be this big brother, and she's not letting me. I mean, maybe it's a personal space thing. Maybe I'm fucking creepy or something. I don't know, man. It feels really bad. And she goes to her dad's place every summer, pretty much. Yeah, every summer. And one summer she came back, and she was saying these really hurtful things that were directed towards mom. Well, our mom. And it made me angry. Angry beyond belief. Like, I couldn't think to myself, how could she even say that? Why is she saying that? Like, what the fuck are you thinking? And I just don't know what's going through her head, and I feel like her dad is saying, her dad or her cousins are saying stuff to her, and like, I don't know, sabotaging the relationship we have with her. So, I mean, I'm already really defensive about that. But I just don't get it, man. She came back saying all that stuff, and it was super hurtful because she had this really long message that she sent to me, and it made me cry because it felt like she hated the entire family. Honestly, like she didn't want to be a part of our family, and I bawled my eyes out. And being her, big brother hasn't felt the same since then. I mean, I try to be her big brother, but I feel, pushed away, like I said earlier. And it saddens me. I feel like I'm failing. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, did I deserve this because of how shitty I was to my father? Or, no, I don't want to sleep. Or, like, is it even my fault? Oh my god. Shake it off, shake it off. I'm doing this video for therapeutic reasons. But that's another thing that's really getting to me. It's a compound thing that it's like I keep in the back of my head, and I'm always thinking about it, even though I know I shouldn't. Or I mean, maybe I should. Fuck, what's next? I guess another thing is my job. It's stressful as I guess any job can be, and I can say the cookie cutter stuff like, oh, customers are rude, the job is exhausting, boss is a dick, blah 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 blah. I can say all that stuff, but in the end it doesn't really mean jack shit. Well, at least not to me. Or maybe to a lot of people. It's, but the job itself does stress me out a lot. Being a convenience store worker is just so much harder than I would have imagined. And I'm pretty sure people have been through this stuff way more than me, so I got no right and no room to fucking start bitching. Regardless, that's been on my mind too. And I recently did something at my job that totally fucked it over. Because this guy I know, I kind of trusted, I let him behind the counter because, we've been talking for a super long time since I've been here. And, he said he was talking with the boss man about working here. And, I believed him as soon as he said it. And then got a call from the boss lady. You know, why you do this, why you do that, I'm Indian, blah 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 blah. I'm trying to downplay it. I shouldn't be downplaying it. But you know, why would you trust this guy? You don't really know him. And she's right. You know, boss lady is right. But I just did something stupid. Well, I just did that stupid thing. And I think if my boss wasn't, I guess, somewhat forgiving, because I would be fired right now. Like, if he wasn't somewhat forgiving of the situation, I would probably be out of a job. And, you know, he warned me, another fuck up like this, I'm gone. And I get it. I totally fucking fucked up. I just don't say anything about it because it's a recent thing and it could totally fuck up the household equilibrium that we have right now, because right now it's relatively peaceful. And so that's stressing me out too. Like, I don't want him coming back or getting near the job site. I don't want him near there. But regardless, it feels like it would fuck. It feels like something is gonna happen to me because I fucked up like that. So, I mean, I'm stressed out and worried about that too. Oh my gosh. And, that's another layer compounding on my depression. Let's see. Well, I'm gonna say something that's probably a usual suspect, but I also feel like I can't really talk to anyone. Like, maybe they might not understand, and or they've never been through that kind of situation, so they wouldn't know what to say or do or something of that sort. And I understand people have been through similar situations. Hell, there's like, what, almost 8 billion people on the planet now? So, someone's bound to have gone through a situation of similar circumstances. But I don't feel like people would get it. Like, I'm afraid to talk to people about this. That's why I'm doing it in this video format. Because, I mean, talking to a blank screen is so much easier than talking to a person. It's a little harder for me too, because I was diagnosed with some form of autism, but it wasn't properly diagnosed. All I know is that for sure I have a much harder time interacting with people, even though that's normal for autistic kids, well, or autistic people. I have a much harder time interacting, and like, I take everything very literal. So like, if you tell a joke to me, I mean, I'll get the context, but it's kind of like, you know, r/whoosh, it goes right over the head if it's like some sort of inside joke or something, because I wouldn't understand it. You would have to explain it to me and sit me down and say, you know, this. But being in Vegas has, I mean, positively changed my attitude too. Like, I'm definitely more outgoing, and I can express myself in this city without people saying shit. I think that's a repeat. But that's another part of it. And another thing that makes it hard to I guess express myself is hiding behind a mask, so to speak. Another real cliche thing is I try to be happy and smiley all the time, And obviously I'm not. I'm not a happy-go-lucky, smiley jackass with a Fortnite skin on doing ridiculous dances. I'm just... But, I'm just like someone trapped in this metaphorical sphere, knowing that I crashed it will suck me into it. I guess that's also pretty rambly. Another thing that layers onto my depression is the recent deaths of my family members. A lot of people on my dad's side of the family have been passing away lately, but it's because of old age. I still haven't got over great grandma Greathouse's death. Um, Obviously she's my great grandma, but she died no less than a month ago. I think. I haven't kept track of time. I I sang to myself for her because I hope she's okay wherever she is now. And I did the same kind of thing when my other grandparent passed away. My great grandfather. I feel bad. I felt bad for great grandma Greathouse because he passed away way too many years early, for her, to be alone for so long, and then she finally passes away this near the beginning of this year. That hurts too. It's hard to think about. And I'm also not sure many of you know this, but one of the reasons I kind of blame myself for a lot of things is because back when I was still living in Washington State, my dad started having health problems. He had a stroke out of nowhere one day, and one thing led to another, and surprise, surprise, um, he had heart problems. I mean, my dad wasn't particularly healthy, but he wasn't super unhealthy either. He was always relatively fit and doing some sort of work and all that jazz. But it's like he's smoked and drank pretty much all his life, and they found out he had cancer. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who can relate to that and being scared for your parents' life or your loved one's life after finding out they have cancer. But luckily, it was, long story short, it was operated and the cancer was just gone. And I was ecstatic. I was fucking happy over the moon, man. But it only revealed the fact that he had way more health problems. Oh, man. Well, not way more, just another health problem underneath the cancerous tumor that got removed. He has an enlarged heart. So, as a result, it doesn't pump properly. And that's what caused his stroke, because his heart just gave out on him, really. And after they did the cancer thing, I thought he was gonna die from that shit too. I mean, I'm so thankful he's alive. I mean, he's alive and he's doing well, but man, I thought he was gonna die. I thought my dad was gonna die, you know, after my great grandpa died, and then I thought he was gonna die, and then my great grandma. I'm not ready to lose my parents. I can't adult, if you know what I mean. I just can't. And I'm really thankful that, you know, they're obviously both alive and well. I was just worried about my dad. I'm a real daddy's boy, really. Well, mama's boy, but I love both my parents. I mean, luckily, I didn't really come from a broken home, so to speak. Like, my parents always had me squared away. They always took care of me. I was never abused. Maybe verbally abused, but I mean that's a fucking stretch, but I don't think that was ever the case. Actually, well, yeah, verbally abused. I'll speak on that in a moment. But they always had me squared away. As a kid, I never had any like super major trauma aside from them divorcing, which is another part of my depression. But aside from them divorcing and my recent injuries, I was always squared away and taken care of. They both love me with all their hearts, and I'm glad that I don't have family issues like that. I'm glad that both my parents love me and both of them let bygones be bygones, and they still just talk to me and they don't like disassociate with me because I'm just with another family member. I don't call my dad nearly enough, even though I moved over here. Man, I'm a dumbass. But I get another thing that really compounds onto my depression is I guess I feel like I make everything bad happen to me. Um and maybe it all stems from this one time when he had the heart attack. Um he was I got pulled out of a gym class when he was having his heart attack, and when I got pulled into the car with my stepbrother, uh, my stepmom was like, you know, I think it caused his heart attack. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what do you mean? Because at this time I was recently going through discovering myself, so to speak. You know, discovering my sexuality and trying to make sense of myself. I mean, that's also pretty messed up. But my dad was afraid that I was anything else other than straight because I wanted to tell him, you know, that I was bisexual, which I mean I'm pansexual, but I mean that's basically a fancy word for bi. But I wanted to tell him I was bisexual, and I couldn't do it, and then one day I finally worked up the courage to. And it's after that moment that he had, not at that moment, but it's after that he had his heart attack. Goddamn creeper, stay away. But it's after that he had his heart attack, because I was able to finally tell him, and he gave me this stupid lecture about how, and he was using his fingers too. It goes like this, you know, with a finger going through a hole, and not like this. And he had two fucking fingers implicating dicks, touching heads with each other, and I'm just like, oh my god, Dad. I mean, internally, that's what I said, but I was crying because my dad didn't accept it. He didn't accept me, and it fucked me up. There was, for a time, I didn't associate with him. Like, I would go to school, I wouldn't talk to him. I wouldn't, you know, say, hey, how you doing? How's your day? You know, stupid shit like that. I was so hurt that I wanted to disassociate from him. And then a couple weeks later, he had his heart attack, and that's when my stepmom pulled me in the car and said that she thought I caused his heart attack. And you guys don't know how much that hurts. I'm trying not to cry, but you don't know how much that hurts to have someone fucking blame you for your father's heart attack. Like, what did I have to do with it? Fuck. And maybe it's part of the reason I blame myself for everything. I mean, she's always been nice, but I feel like she's some sort of chameleon or something. Because she called me that once, telling me I was two-faced. You don't know how much that hurt either. I mean, that almost hurt worse. Okay, no, it didn't hurt worse, but it hurt. But I feel like she's some sort of two-face, you know? And it was really hurtful that I got blamed for my dad's heart attack. I'm like, you know, why the fuck would you ever say it was my fault? And I still think I think that it's my fault to this day. I mean, it's always in the back of my mind. I try not to ever think about it. But I'm probably always gonna feel like it was my fault. Damn fucking axe broke. It just one stupid magnet I'm thinking of. It says sometimes it's just one thing on top of another, and I kind of feel like that's what depression can be. All these multiples of things stacking on each other to create this weight that just sits on your head or something. it hurts. And so I mean, maybe me blaming myself for my dad's heart attack kind of translates over to whenever something bad happens here, I blame myself for it. I mean, yeah, my fuck up at work was totally my fault. I get that. I'm a dumbass. But I recognize that. But I mean, just the superficial things that happen in our family. I mean, the divorce messed me up too, whether I probably think about it or not, because I mean, even though nothing bad ever happened to me, I was still constantly torn between, you know, my dad and my mom. They had custody battles over me, and I wish I could split myself into a million pieces just so that everyone could have a little part of me that they could just fucking hug and say, I love you, or I'm so glad you're here, or some bullshit like that. I wish I could clone myself and give a copy to each one. But you can't please everyone, right? That's hard to think about too. But being constantly torn between mom and dad, that wasn't the best thing for me. Because no matter what, I was pretty much always moving. I've calculated it, and before I moved to Las Vegas, on average throughout my life, I moved about twice every I moved about once every 2 years. So as a result, I was like always the new kid, you know? Couldn't really make friends, didn't know how to make friends. And as far as I know, the meds I was on when I was younger didn't help me. But that's maybe a time I blocked out of my life or something. Like my memory, because I don't remember it. All I know is that my mom says it wasn't a pretty time for my mental health, I guess. And maybe I should go back to high school real quick and think back on it, because that is where a lot of my pain and anguish seems to come from. I mean, high school can be brutal. I think we all know that. But just in general, I think most of my pain came from those years. I mean, up until that point, even regarding my average, the longest I had stayed in one place was Cedar Woolley and Hamilton. They're real towns. You can look them up. They're real towns in Washington State. But it was for a total of 4 years, and I kind of counted it as the same place. But the high school there, it was filled to the brim with hicks and jocks and the country crowd, really. Like it had the city town vibe, but I mean it was still country as all hell. As all hell, with the devil and a golden fiddle. Yeah, I mean people like their mud rucking, their trucks, their, you know, their brass balls on their trucks, camping, fishing, logging, outdoorsiness, camping, I said camping. But, I mean, not to mention there was a lot of Bible thumpers and a lot of Christians and just a lot of religious folk in the area. And it wasn't my place because, boy, being anything else other than straight in that town was frowned upon. And this is back when, being gay was just barely starting to be anywhere near accepted. Like anywhere near progressing towards acceptance. And obviously there's places out there that still don't accept gays or just LGBT peeps. But it was hard because, I mean, I couldn't be myself. It was even harder to be myself because at the time I had a girlfriend. I'm not gonna name her for posterity's sake or whatever you call it, privacy. But I had a girlfriend at that time since I was about 12. I was with her for 5 years until I was about 17. And we broke up because I found out she cheated on me for an entire year, in fact. I mean, that was just painful, period. But I thought she was going to be the woman I was going to marry, no question. Because we had spent so much time of our lives together in high school and in middle school even though back in middle school it was probably just classified as puppy love. But you get the idea. I mean, she was with me that entire time. And it messes with my head. I mean, recently we've been talking and we've reconciled about a lot of things. But that's one thing that hurt. And it's like I couldn't say around her, "Hey, I also like guys," or stupid, bullshit like that. I couldn't be open with her. Because, she doesn't swing that way, she said. God damn, I broke my sword. And, it was just another limiting factor. And trying to sexually discover yourself in a Bible thumping neighborhood where being straight is normal and being gay is looked upon as like the devil's work, it did wonders for my mental state, if you know what I mean. I felt like I was wrong, And going back to that moment where I was able to finally tell my dad, hey, I'm gay, as cheesy as that sounds. Another one of those limiting moments was I heard my stepbrother in the background, say, "It was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve," and I'm like, shut the fuck up, I don't need your input. I mean, luckily that was probably the best comeback to say. I'm like, I don't need your input right now. And it just added on to this pile of mess I was experiencing. Oh my god, I'm trying not to cry so hard. But that was really hard. That's one of the reasons I got sick of that place, and moved to Vegas. It it doesn't take much, I guess, to ruin someone's day, especially when you're that young. And I keep looking back on myself and saying, man, at this age I was stupid. Man, at this age I was stupid. You know, I keep repeating that pattern. But the reality is I'm still learning, and I feel like I can't learn from these mistakes I've made. I mean, they feel like mistakes to me, and they probably always will. I mean, it got bad too, because I mean, that was just the breaking point. At that time I was about 16. You know, that conversation with my dad, that interaction with my stepbrother, I mean, that was my point where I just, you know, I kind of said fuck it. And at this time, before this time, you know, a lot of shit happened when I was 14. I mean, my mom moving to Nevada was the catalyst, really. I mean, to think back on it, but it's not her fault, I don't think. But I mean, it was definitely the catalyst to a lot of my problems, at least in my mind. Because shortly after that point, I became suicidal, and I mean like actually suicidal. Luckily, we didn't really have any really bad things that we kept in the house, so it was hard to get your hands on such an object. I mean, we had shotguns, but my dad kept that shit firmly locked up, and we only used it to ever to like go to shooting ranges and stuff, which I'll admit that was fun. It was really fun shooting shotguns. But he kept that shit locked up, you know, tighter than his clenched ass cheeks. Stupid joke. And so the only thing I had access to was knives, and it was at that point I started cutting. You know, I became that emo cutter kid, always wearing black, long sleeves, black this, black that. But aside from that, my dad was very controlling of my image. I couldn't have long hair. I couldn't wear certain things. I couldn't do things a certain way, you know. So I was very restricted. I was also, you know, around this point in time becoming a furry, and that's not a bad thing in my opinion, but everyone has their own ideas. It kind of started with porn, but that's really another story for another day. But that was also a problem back then, because I was beating off to furry porn back then on my fucking Nintendo DSi that had internet access, so I fucking looked it up on the... I mean, that's pretty fucking ghetto. We had internet out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, and I was looking up furry porn on my DSi. But, I mean, I was jerking it to that, and one day they said, hey, we're going through your phones, and they found all the fucking furry porn I had saved on my phone and on my DS. And they started calling me a fucking they started calling me a zoophile, that I was into bestiality. They started accusing me of all this shit. And they're like, we need to put you in a mental institution. Are you fucking sick? Are you gonna fuck our dogs? And fuck, man, that really hurt too. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not that fucking sick, you know? What am I, a fucking monster? Something made me feel like a fucking freak to people, you know? It made me feel like a real fucking freak, and I I was in with this group of friends, and maybe we all clicked because we were all in the same suicidal mindset, but you know how the kind of emo kids, they all kind of gather together in one group, and they all hang out. I was one of them, but I was more goth than emo, I guess, when it comes in terms of style and how I presented myself. I definitely wasn't seen. And it was, like I said, it was at that point that I started cutting, because I mean, it got really bad. Somehow I don't have any more scars from it. Maybe because it's been so goddamn long. Or maybe I didn't, cut enough to make like super serious scars, but they're literally almost completely gone. The only ones I can notice really are the ones by my wrists, and they're just several lines that several of these like super faint lines that I can still see, because I cut up the joint where my wrists are a lot worse than I did the rest of my arm. And I came to school one day, and another one of my suicidal friends, they saw I was wearing long sleeves again that day. And they said, what did you fucking do? They grabbed my wrist, like, they really grabbed it, pulled up my sleeve. She looked down and she just looked back up at me and she slapped me. They just, she said, you're a fucking idiot. You could have killed yourself, man. It really clicked, because it was that night before that happened that I was writing some sort of like death poem, and I bled on it because I didn't want to make a mess in my room in case I fucking sliced myself to death. Self-conscious about making a mess when you want to die. It's so fucking stupid. But it was then it was that same week that they found out I had been doing that too. And this was after the whole furry thing. After the whole thing where, they said you're fucking sick. And they again said they should put me in a mental hospital.